All right, I am going live with my stream. I believe it is live. I'm gonna check real quick on my phone, but I'm showing a strong signal, so I believe it's going. I believe it is. Yes. All right, cool. I'm live. Folks, it's Inktober. I'm drawing something every day. Today's prompt was drooling. Excuse me, almost choked. Hello, pathetic spider boy. Thank you so much for joining. I am exhausted. It's really late. So without any further ado, I'm just going to get right into drawing. Today's prompt was drooling, and I have sketched out a quick version of Lockjaw, the gigantic teleporting dog of the Inhumans. Marvel's Inhumans. Everyone's absolute favorite characters, bar none. Hello to Mike Art. J. Andrew World joins us, and Mikey Jesus. Thank you all for joining. That's so awesome. That's really, really nice to see that I've actually got some people, even though it's incredibly late. At least for me. I'm gonna try to do this one pretty fast because I actually also still need to edit the comic tropes that's about to go live. I've still got a few hours of editing left on that, but I only just got home from work, so this is the first opportunity I've had to stream. How's my day going? Hello, Aldi. Welcome. My day is going fine, I suppose. Nothing great. Yeah, it's just busy. I've just been going, and trying to make them sales, you know what I mean. Alright, let's include a huge strand of saliva here. Huge one. Because that's what this is all about today. I'm going to give Lockjaw a big old tongue, because Lockjaw is essentially a gigantic bulldog. And actually they're not the drooliest dogs out there, but drooly enough for my purposes. So, let's see, the best character on the Inhumans TV show. I'll take your word on that. I couldn't get past 2 episodes. I guess I sort of feel like, oh yeah, maybe I'll come back and check that out someday, but probably not. We'll see. Yeah, you know what? I think since it's so late, I'm going to do my best to do this with minimal lines. That's my personal goal, is just what can I do with minimal lines. So we shall see. How are all of you? Did anybody else draw something for Inktober today? If so, definitely speak up. Let me know. Or at least tell each other about it. Because it's a lot of work to keep at it, to keep drawing every day. And I'm only doing like an hour and a half every day. Just think about what a professional comic book artist is putting themselves through every single day. Kind of amazing. Let's see, some stuff. Have I played the new Spider-Man game? I have, Patrick, and you know what? I actually 100%ed it. So, yeah, I got everything on it. Didn't think I'd have the time to do that, but it's not the longest game in the world, is it? It really isn't. It's a great game. I really thought it was a blast. I loved the story. I loved the visuals. I enjoyed the controls and the idea behind it. So I don't know if I'll be able to afford the bonus content, but that would be a game I would be inclined to support for the bonus content, just to play around in that world some more. Alright. Coming up on Lockjaw's big old floppy ears. Hey, I've been working all day until just now, so I haven't had any opportunity to really go online today or anything. Since this is a comic book related channel, can anyone tell me if there was any big news to come out of the New York Comic Con today? I would imagine that all the big publishers had some sort of announcements today. Saturday is usually the biggest day of the convention, and yeah, hopefully there's some cool stuff being announced. But I have not had the opportunity to check yet, so if anyone wants to speak up with what came out of there, I'd love to know. Aquaman extended trailer. Okay, that's fine. But that came out on like Thursday, I think. So, or Friday at least. I think it came out on Friday, and today's Saturday. There had to be something bigger that came out today. That was small potatoes. They announced like creative teams on some sort of big titles anywhere, or maybe like a new TV show or something. I feel like that's a possibility. It's the kind of stuff we usually get for New York Comic Con. One of my best friends was there, and he sent me several awesome cosplay pictures. I really miss being there this year. It hurts. Well, next year, right? I even had my pro badge and everything, but it just wouldn't have been responsible to pay for like the flight and the hotel or whatever. Meanwhile, locally, almost all my friends are at a big housewarming party right now, even my fiance. But I said I need to live stream and I need to finish editing Comic Tropes. So as soon as I'm done with work, I'm coming home to do my personal work, you know? That's my day today. Not too exciting, I suppose. Let's see. Tom King said the deaths in Heroes in Crisis are permanent, which is not news, but saw it in my feed for today. Okay, yeah, that's sort of news. Thanks. Appreciate that. As permanent as anything in comics is these days, right? Which is to say, not especially. Trust me, that was actually not always the case. Up through the into the 80s, if a character died, they stayed dead. That used to not be. That used to be like, yeah, whatever happened, happened. Except maybe for villains, but you sort of expect a villain to come back. It's not. That's not the same stakes as like losing a protagonist or a supporting character or anything like that. Alright, let me switch it up a little here. Pull out a thicker brush and bang out a little bit of Lockjaw's outer body. Do a little bit of a rough line because he does have fur. Feel like it's only fair to acknowledge that. Did you hear the Walking Dead game news? No? What's that? I hope it's that the people at Telltale Games are getting some sort of severance pay. If it's something other than that, I feel like it's not too important right now. Alright, there we go with that. Thick brushes, yes. Monix, Inhumans, yup, Inhumans. Have you been keeping up with Doomsday Clock? Nope, haven't read it at all. Maybe someday later when it's finished, I'll get some back issues to support a comic shop, but I don't want to support it as a new comic. Just not my thing. Nothing against the creators doing it, more just don't really think it's right for DC to be exploiting Alan Moore's writing when he doesn't want them to be. So yeah, I didn't read any of the Before Watchmen stuff either, I'm afraid. Alright. Making some progress here. And then I'll poke my head up in just a moment to see if there are any cool questions or topics of discussion that I should be joining in. Let's see. Avengers 4 is called Avengers Annihilation. Okay. Kirkman is going to hire the Walking Dead game team on a contract to finish the finale. That's impressive. Does that mean like all the people that were like let go that like didn't get severance? Is he saying that he's going to like hire them all on a contract? If so, that sounds amazing. That's totally the right thing to do, and I'm very impressed. I hope I'm reading that right. Not reading too much into it. I like hearing that. I hope that I'm interpreting that correctly. That could help a lot of people. Bullseye is officially confirmed for Daredevil Season 3. Yep, I think that's awesome. I'm totally into it. Bullseye is a fantastic villain. Hold on, what's this? Whoa, thank you, Mikey Jesus. Super chat. Okay, question is, what comic book character do you most relate to? Let me think for a sec. That's a good question. That's an interesting one anyway. I really like it. Let me see. What character do I relate to the most? Probably someone that feels sort of nerdy and stressed out. So, and also just feels a responsibility for making others happy. So in a lot of ways, I feel like that's Spider-Man, Peter Parker. Not that like everything is the same. But there's definitely some similarities there. I definitely relate to, if we're just talking characters that have been in comics, Harvey Picard. I mean, that's basically real life stuff, but yeah, just his sort of like grouchiness at the world that just isn't better but should be. Like, I totally relate to a lot of the stuff Harvey Picard wrote throughout American Splendor, so that's another big one. have to give some more thought beyond that. But as far as superhero characters, like mainstream stuff, like Spider-Man. Spider-Man's always been a big one for me there. Thank you very much for the super chat and the question. I'm sure you're getting this question a lot, but what ink pen are you currently using? This is a Pentel. What's it called? It's called a double-ended duo point flex. It's pretty good for a nice thick brush. Sorry, that snuck up on me out of nowhere. Ooh, you had a feeling it would be Peter? Yeah. What can I say? I'm predictable. No, I think that there's a lot of people would probably say Spider-Man. There's a reason that, like, you know, a character like that is so popular, and a lot of it is his relatability. Thank you very much. I love a fun question like that. All right, let me bang out a couple more of the big, thick details, and then I'll switch to a thinner brush and some technical pens. Oh, today was a tough day at work. I kept thinking I was about to get a sale, and nothing coalesced. Nothing quite led to a sale. Frustrating. Do I remember my first Marvel book? The first one I remember reading was just a random issue of Thing, as in Ben Grimm. He had like a 12-issue series at some point in like the very early 80s, I think. So that was the first one I definitely remember. The first one I bought for myself was Transformers number 26. Because I didn't really know about comics, but I loved Transformers at the time, and so when I saw an issue of Transformers at the local convenience store, I got really excited. I was like, oh my god, more Transformers stories? So that was sort of my entry point. From there, I quickly tried G.I. Joe, which was actually a much better title. It had better artists. It had a much better writer. No offense to like Bob Budinsky or whoever else wrote. Like Simon Furman, I think, wrote a bunch of Transformers, and it's fine. I liked it at the time a lot, but I think G.I. Joe was better. And then I very quickly tried Spider-Man. David Michelinie was the writer at the time. Todd McFarlane became the artist early on when I started reading it, and yeah, I was hooked. It worked for me very, very well at that time in my life. It's probably like 12 or 13. What are some good comics to start getting back into with? I guess it depends on your tastes. I can't necessarily just recommend a book out of nowhere. You know, like, are we talking superheroes and mainstream stuff? Are we talking more like indie or crime or sci-fi or horror? You know, like that. Those are the questions I'd need to sort of consider before I could give a solid recommendation to anyone. Alright, I guess I just got quiet again. I tend to do that when I'm doing details. Bad habit. Gotta get better at that. Yeah, exactly, Moxnix. Thing was on some alien planet. I only read one issue of it. It was just like one of my first comics is all. But I do remember it, and I kept it, and I went back to it later, and I had a little more context because I'd been reading more Marvel stuff, and I finally sort of understood sort of what it was about. Not that it was like totally confusing. It's just that like I didn't know who the character was as well. Things like that. All right, let me do a little bit of the work on Black Bolt here, who I really only decided to include just so that like there was some context for Lockjaw's size. The prompt word was drool, and I just thought of like a big dog drooling, and I was trying to think of like which superhero characters or that like drooled. Another contender was one of the xenomorphs from Alien. I came very close to wanting to do that today, but I don't think I've drawn an I hadn't really drawn an animal yet for this year's Inktober, so that's what sort of helped Lockjaw win out, is that even though he's big and stuff, he's at its core, this is just drawing a dog. It's a type of a bulldog. So I was like, that sounds like a kind of cool challenge. I've never really tried to sit down and illustrate a bulldog before, specifically. Let me take a crack at that. And I'm having fun with it. I wanted to give him like really big, soulful black eyes and a huge slobbery tongue. So mission accomplished there. A bunch of folks in here. Let's see. Oh, wow. J Muse. Am I saying that right? J Muse. Super chat. Thank you so much. 2 a.m. Just got married today, yesterday. Pretty inebriated. Comic Tropes Live. Here's money. Thanks for the great videos, Chris. Good night, everyone. Hey, congratulations. That's fantastic. I hope you and your new spouse are incredibly happy together. That's very exciting. Thank you so much for dropping in. All my best to you. That is lovely. That is kind of special. That is very special. Thank you so much. Congrats. That's lovely. You guys are fantastic. Such kind people. I think that over time, if you do a YouTube show, you essentially will attract the audience that you want. You might attract some other people as well, but you're going to attract the people that you want. And I want people that are kind and smart and have an appreciation for the arts and storytelling and humanity. And I very much believe that's what I'm getting. So thank you for constantly proving me right. It's just nice seeing people wish a stranger so many well wishes. That's really cool. And I did get the name right. Nailed it. Yeah! Yeah. Oh, what a tough day it was. Wasn't like my job isn't necessarily especially stressful per se. At the same time, it's commission based. I only make money if I sell a car. I don't just make money for showing up. And I'm also not the kind of guy that's going to like try to just trick somebody into a car. I want to take time on every single sale to go through what the people want out of a car and the car's history. And I honestly think that the entire way you have to work at my business requires that. You know, we go through a vehicle history. We won't sell anything that has frame damage or anything weird like that. So, you know, those are good things, but boy, it is tough when when you just really need to make a sale and just can't quite get it done. Just for whatever reason, like, you know, the customer's finances aren't quite in the right place. That's honestly the thing that happens more often than anything else to scuttle the deal. You know, they're just looking for vehicles that aren't in a realistic price range for their budget. But that's what they want, and maybe all they want. So that can be tough. Oh well. I don't know how long I'll do this, but it pays the bills for now. What's my favorite movie? It changes, to be honest. It changes, Spider Boy. It depends on like what kind of a mood I'm in. There are some that I'll keep coming back to for sure. Let's say Ghostbusters and Back to the Future and the Star Wars trilogy, the original trilogy, especially Empire Strikes Back, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Those are all a bunch of like movies from sort of my childhood that I can keep coming back to again and again. The Godfather, I really like. Boy, there's a lot. Like most of the stuff that Christopher Nolan does, Stanley Kubrick. Paul Anderson, mostly Wes Anderson. I tend to follow the directors a lot these days. Yeah. I don't know. It can change depending on the day. It can change. Why do you think it is that Batman's no-kill rule never gets respected in live-action adaptations? Even in Titans, he's apparently a murderer. I think it probably has to do with dramatic stakes and what you can do in serialized stories versus just like sort of a shorter one. You know, like a movie is shorter, and I don't think that like most of the live action versions of Batman set out to kill. He's just, if somebody dies while they're in a fight, that is kind of just something that can happen, you know? Police and soldiers go into engagements and they know that, like, you know, their opponent, they could be forced to kill them. They know that. And if you're going to just sort of make something live action, sometimes it's hard to sort of just say that, like, Batman would never do that. It's harder. It's not impossible, it's just harder to keep everything sort of a little more grounded because it is live action. These are just speculations. I don't have a for sure answer right now. Trolls 2 is the best movie. Yeah. Interstellar, yeah. Am I watching Legion? I don't have cable anymore right now, JoJo. Couldn't afford it. So I saw season 1 of Legion. I really, really liked it. I wish I could stay with it, but I'll have to catch it someday. Maybe streaming somewhere or something like that. Oh, Sigmix points out Edgar Wright movies. I love Edgar Wright. Yeah, I'll watch anything he makes. So, good call on that. Just focusing a little bit on some of the shadows that I need to block in on this mask, and then I'll get back to the chat. I am hearing the strangest animal sound outdoors, and I really can't honestly tell exactly what it is. Weird. It might be a dog, but I really can't tell. What is that? Am I going to put in some crackle? Not exactly. Well, if I had more time, absolutely. But I don't have much time because I've been doing this already for 31 minutes, and I'm pretty much going to stick to that 1 hour. When I hit an hour, I'm really going to have to bail just because I've still got the actual episode to finish editing. Of comic tropes, and I imagine everybody out there would rather have comic tropes than have me finish a drawing. So, you know, I'll work on the drawing, I'll take questions, I'll hopefully improve, but the priority is getting out a new episode of Comic Tropes. Hope that makes sense. Who is your favorite writer? Mine is Peter David. That's Pathetic Spider Boy. Probably Ed Brubaker. I really, really enjoy everything he's done. Everything. I like crime stories, and I really loved what he did on Captain America. That totally worked for me. So yeah, ultimately, I'd have to go with Ed Brubaker. I've never been disappointed by anything he's written. How about you guys? Who's your favorite writer? Favorite writer? What are you saying, Aldi? Or Livestream you editing? I don't get it. That's a good dog. Have you practiced a lot of drawing dogs? Not a lot. I've drawn my sister's dogs a couple times. That's about it. But none of them are bulldogs. So yeah, just seemed like it would be a fun challenge, and it is so far. So that's good. I like animals, so I think that they're a great challenge because the thing I draw the most is people, and after that maybe buildings and maybe cars, but probably animals is third, and animals are tricky but important, you know? Yeah. I think I'll just try to focus on maybe about like where I am here on sort of the lower legs up. As long as I could just sort of get that done tonight, I think I'd feel a good sense of accomplishment. I'm not sure if I'll have time to do much more than that. Hell, maybe I won't have time to do even that much. Who knows? Oh my God. Wow. Salvation 73 just gave me a large donation on Super Chat. That's very kind. New Patreon supporter. Love the content. You've got skills in graphic design and drawing. Why aren't you drawing professionally? Got to pay the bills right now, so I can't really afford to take off any sort of time to risk it on a project that pays down the road. And I'm probably not fast enough to do like a monthly book or anything. you all see how long this is taking me to do just this sketch. You know, this is going to take me like an hour and a half. I bet you most professional artists could bang something like this out in like half an hour and have it look a little better. I'm just being realistic. That's part of what I'm doing this for, is to like try to increase on my speed, just become more confident with the techniques that I'm using so that I can move in that direction a little faster. Yeah. In terms of graphic design, I mean, arguably, I have done that for a living. I've, you know, over the last several years, my career ended up going in a little bit more the business side of marketing, but I've always kept my hand in designing an ad or two wherever I've been. So, yeah. Thank you, though. Wow, very generous. Much appreciated. Let's block this in. Block in a little bit of snout there. Yeah, that's not too bad. All right, there's no money in comics, says J. Andrew World. Well, there is and there isn't. You know, it's not the kind of thing most people get rich in, that's for sure, and most people could probably barely even make a living at it. But if you create your own creation and you're able to, in turn, license that into toys or t-shirts, a TV show, you know, then there's money. But that's the question, is, you know, like inventing your own thing and then controlling it correctly. That's not easy. That's not easy. Getting an offer might be easy. Making sure you accept the right offer, that's not. Oh, it seemed to me when I started looking at bulldogs that their lower lip really will flap around. So that's what I'm trying to indicate here. And I think I need to just sort of add a few sort of curvy lines to indicate exactly what's going on. But hopefully that's becoming clear, if it isn't clear yet. Anyway, moving in that direction. What other questions? If you want to get fast, switch to brushes for real. Then I have to have a million brushes. I don't know. You're probably right. You're probably right. That's what most people do, so there's probably a reason for that. Just trying to feather this subtly so that it looks more like fur. And it's working to a degree. Hell, having never drawn Lockjaw before, personally I'm pretty okay with how his sort of face and upper body came together. Especially since I haven't drawn a lot of dogs. I was definitely very nervous about that. But, yeah, I'm kind of okay with this. I'm going to do, instead of longer feathering, kind of tighten it up to very short feathering, because, in my opinion, his fur would be very... he'd be a short-haired dog, so if I'm going to indicate his texture at the edges of the shadows, it should probably also be kind of short strokes. And maybe that isn't super obvious right off the bat from this camera up here, but to me in person it's looking better, and so I think it would scan better. but I'm also getting sort of lost in the little details. It's Bat Hound. Oh, people are saying what was Batman's dog's name. Yeah, it was Ace. It was Ace, and he'd wear a mask and a cape. If you want to get more speed at your drawing skills for a core gestual drawing, I recommend you to check some of the lessons of Glenn Vilppu, an amazing artist. Glenn Vilppu. Okay, try to keep that in mind. Thanks. Can always never hurts to have more advice. All right, let's see what we can do with this. Let's see. Think anything that's one of Black Bolt's sort of white lines on his costume, I will just not shade. We'll see how that goes. But I might not have time to draw all of Black Bolt either. Yeah, like that. I'm going to draw this side of Black Bolt all shaded. Okay, what are some questions? Odie is a contender for Good Boy Award. Always putting up with Garfield. Always cheers up John. Good boy. Very good boy. Totally agree, Connor. Oh, core equals more from Lucas. Thank you. More gestural drawings. Yeah, that makes sense. When I graduate, this is Pathetic Spider Boy, I'm going to go to the Kubert School College. It's a comics, cartoon, and animation school founded by Joe Kubert. Yeah, a lot of people that have had success in comics have come through there. What's my favorite character design? Spider-Man. Well, let me backtrack a little. Spider-Man is one of the most unique outfits because he's just got like a really fantastic overall design. The front and the back are both different but iconic. It's a great use of primarily two colors. The mask is very unique, especially at least at the time. But also another great one is, of course, Batman, because you can identify Batman purely by silhouette, and that's pretty awesome. That's pretty cool. There we go. And yeah. All right. My girlfriend contends Martian Manhunter is the best design, but I think she has a bias. Well, we all have our biases, so that's fair. Let's see. Rosaku says, I did attend a comics course at my illustration course. I also have the option to attend a private school dedicated to comics and animation, but it's too much money. Well, that's a bummer. But, you know, I think that one of the biggest things any sort of school is going to teach you is more just how to think and how to approach things, more than like the actual sort of talent. I mean, talent is built by hard work. And so if you're willing to put in the hard work, you can do that outside of school. Technical knowledge can be imparted. How to do certain math, what certain tools do, can speed things like that up and give you accreditation, but the actual like talent of being able to draw well, that's going to be inside of you in terms of how much hard work you're putting into something, not who teaches you, in my opinion. I definitely think that there's stuff to be gained from school and teaching and learning. I just don't think it's the only way to learn. I wish I can be a successful comics creator, says Charles. Don't just wish it, make it happen. I'm sure you can. I'm sure all of us can if that's what we actually want and aim for. Might be time for me to get a couple more new brushes, unfortunately. I use them up very quickly during this time of year. All right, let's see. Questions? The way forward for DC is for them to respect the source material and stop worrying about what will make cash. Yeah, I guess so. Anyone here a writer? I bet you're all writers. In here, where it counts. So, should I tell you guys all the topic of the comic tropes that'll come out soon, or should I let it be a surprise for a few more hours? You tell me. Hoping for a Jim Lee episode soon. I don't know how soon I'll hit that, Connor, but I definitely will do one. I definitely will. Definitely something I want to discuss. Let's hear it. Anybody else? I'm keen to hear. We are super fans. We want to know. Tomorrow's new episode of Comic Tropes will be about Venom. Of course it's going to be about Venom. How could it not be, right? But I'm not just going to like reiterate the history. Don't worry. There's a little something more to it than that. I hope you guys enjoy it. I think it's pretty funny with a lot of interesting history behind it. But I'm biased. Obviously, I'm making episodes that I think people want to see. All I can do is go with my own instincts for the most part. Spencer says, gotta grow the channel. I'm trying. I'm trying. Keep the drink as a surprise. I don't drink every episode. I tend not to drink too much anymore in the episodes. People seem to think that was too predictable or something. I'll do it when I feel like it, but I probably won't do it as much anymore. Look at this big old puppers. Who's a good boy? Lockjaw's a good boy. If I was trying to create a piece that would be published, obviously I'd be slowing down, making sure I get everything just right, but that's not the goal here. The goal isn't necessarily to even finish. The goal is to improve. Improve on speed, improve on technique, improve on confidence. And I feel like I'm accomplishing that tonight. I feel good about this. We're coming up on an hour, so I probably won't go for too much longer. That means that I probably also won't finish this particular piece, but that's okay. That's okay. What about Executioner's Song? Wow. For a while, Lockjaw was supposed to be just a regular Inhuman. Yeah, I remember that was a thing that was proposed at one point, and that just never sat well with me. You know what? I'd rather not have Lockjaw explained at all. The Inhumans just have a gigantic dog that teleports. I don't need to know more than that. He's cute and fun and whimsical, and that's enough for me for Lockjaw. I very much like the idea of him. Jack Kirby could just come up with fun ideas so easily. Very impressive. I'll be right back to conversating. I'm just concentrating on not making a mistake. It's funny, I know I go quiet every once in a while I'm working on details, and I've realized it's almost, I don't quite hold my breath, but it's almost like that when you're like drawing a bow and arrow or you're aiming a handgun. You try to at least control your breath and maybe like release on the exhale, something like that. Did you see the story about the Banksy piece? I did, Jojo, and it cracked me up. As soon as the auction was complete, it self-shredded. That was funny. That was pretty funny. Everybody at the auction place was laughing. I imagine that the winning bidder got their money refunded, so I don't think anyone got hurt on that. It's just, yeah, that was pretty good. who's an artist that you all like that isn't necessarily considered an absolute top tier superstar, but somebody that you'll read just about anything they put out? I'm trying to think if I've got somebody like that. Lee Weeks, good call, good call. I would say Sean Phillips. I've started to really like. Brian Lee O'Malley, sure, I can sort of see that. I think he's got his own brand though, since he writes and draws his own pieces. He's a little bit of an auteur, isn't he? But anyway, let's see. A few people are listing some Japanese creators that I'm not overly familiar with, unfortunately, but I love that you are a fan of them, and that's exactly what I was sort of trying to get at. Some interesting things. I would say Stuart Immonen was a superstar. Does Ryan Otley count? Maybe not quite yet. Yeah, I mean he had a long run on Invincible, but that wasn't quite the same as Marvel or DC in terms of how well known an artist would be. Now that he's on Spider-Man, I think if he has a good length run there, he'll become a well-known superstar. That's what I really believe. Kevin Nolan. Oh, totally. Wow. Oh, and you know who else belongs in some like alongside somebody like Kevin Nolan is maybe like Brian Stelfreeze. Like there's so many artists that other artists like adore and admire. Maybe like Dave Johnson. Like and trust me, people in the industry respect these people. They give them plenty of work, but I don't know that they're necessarily like brand names. Anyway, would love to see a comic tropes take on Jodorowsky. I might do that at some point. Well, I probably will. My opinions on Jodorowsky have changed radically in this past year. I used to be very entertained and fascinated by his bizarro philosophies, and then I learned that he did something on the set of El Topo that I find really hard to get behind him anymore. Very upsetting. Let's see. Yeah, this is a very subjective question that I asked about somebody that I would say is not top tier, but that you love. And somebody said Steve Lieber. I think that that's totally fair. Is there a comic you really think is terrible or offensive? I mean, plenty that are terrible, but like terrible in an entertaining way. Offensive? I thought that the Red Scare comic that I reviewed, any Chick Tract, I think that those are pretty offensive. Comics that sort of like are being used primarily as propaganda to change people's mind on an issue, but are being very sort of disingenuous about their approach. I don't care for that too much. If that makes sense. Let's see. Al Williamson. Yeah, that is a great underrated artist. Al Williamson's incredible. Al Williamson. Wow. Okay, Tigran Pet says, my biggest dream is for you to make a collab with Diversity in Comics. That won't happen. I've said before many times that I don't watch other comic book related channels because I don't want to be influenced by anybody else's approach. I've made that pretty clear time and again. That said, I'm vaguely aware of what they try to do, and from what I hear, I don't think I would be on the same page as somebody like Diversity in Comics. I think that we have very different opinions on comics in general. I don't cling very religiously to what I grew up with in terms of like thinking that it's the best. Um, so I'm kind of like all for any kind of new ideas, and I don't really care or judge things a success purely based on financial sales. So I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that my personal philosophy would not necessarily jibe well with the, I don't know if it's one creator or several creators, but the diversity in comics thing. I don't think I'm on the same page. Did I see the Dark Dungeons movie that was adapted from the Chick Tract? Not only did I see it, I supported it on Kickstarter and went to a test screening because it was made here in Seattle. Mm. Somebody mentions Keith Giffen. I will be talking about Keith Giffen at some point. Rod Wiggum. Now that's kind of a deep pull. I like that, J. Andrew World. There are some deep pulls that we could get there. Mm. Folks, I'm gonna call it tonight just because I do still have a lot of work still to do. I know I didn't really ink the lower half of Black Bolt. To me, Black Bolt and like some of these paws weren't really the most important part for me. I feel that I can definitely accomplish that when I have time. So um, that's not my goal for tonight. My goal was just to get the idea out. The prompt was drooling, so I drew Lockjaw drooling. If I had more time, I would finish that and the paws. Probably would on because there's so much black to spot. That would honestly probably take at least another half hour, and it wouldn't be very interesting to watch. It really wouldn't. And then I would probably do some Kirby Crackle, which would also take a lot of time. J. Andrew World pointed this out. I'm using brush pens instead of actual different sized brushes. That would definitely speed up my work. So that's not really my goal. I think you can all use your imaginations to sort of see where I was going with this idea, and in my opinion, or to my satisfaction anyway, I've accomplished what I set out to do tonight. And I had a good time talking to all of you, which is just as important. It's one of the reasons why I'm doing this all month is to connect with the people that are watching my channel. I will have some sort of a story or something to tell tomorrow. Let's see. It's tomorrow, Sunday. Okay, I do get out of work earlier on Sunday than most other days, so there's a good chance I could get the stream going somewhere around 8 p.m. Pacific, which is at least 2 hours earlier than tonight. Still not an early time, but that's my goal. Um, what is tomorrow's prompt? That's a great question, Tito. Let's take a quick look. Let's take a quick look at what the prompt is for tomorrow. Oh, exhausted. Exhausted. Well, that sounds like it's more of something that's important to represent through gesture than a specific character. So, I'll have to give that some thought. Exhausted. I don't know. Something will have to pop into my head. I could draw almost any character, more or less, for exhausted. So it'll really just sort of depend on what idea tickles my fancy tomorrow. Exhausted. I mean, there's certain characters that it would be much harder to represent, like, say if I tried to draw somebody like Ghost Rider or RoboCop. How do you represent them exhausted? You can have them slump, but you're missing out on a lot of emotional facial tools that an artist has. You can have the hands and you can have the body language. But let's see, who to draw exhausted? I'll have to give that some very serious thought. I don't have an idea off the top of my head. A Transformer, Major Bummer, a hero after a hard day's work. Transformers. The Transformers is interesting. All right. The Flash. The Flash is kind of clever just because his whole thing is stamina and speed and stuff like that. Someone throwing water on Ghost Rider's head. Exhaust, yeah. Old Man Logan. Yeah, that's not a bad. Self-portrait. Yeah. It looks like this. It looks like this. Batman. Yeah. Transformer because exhaust, not tired. Oh, exhausted. That is kind of clever. Let me give some thought to that one. The trick with a transformer is there can be so much detail, and you have to, like, if you want to simplify it into a cartoon, that can take some practice. I've got maybe he's not a friend, but he's certainly an acquaintance, a guy that I really do respect and admire. He's an artist named Joel Carroll, and he's online, and he draws a bunch of Transformers, and he will sometimes draw them in a very simplified, cartoony style, and they look fantastic. He's so talented. Yeah, Joel Carroll, very talented artist. Sometimes I'm stunned that he isn't working on a comic. I mean, he must have his reasons, but certainly has the talent if he ever decided to go that direction, in my opinion. And he has some great Transformers. And then I have a friend named E.J. Sue who used to, I think, draw some of the Transformers comics for like Dreamwave maybe back in the day. I think I have that right. I'd have to look back at the timeline. But he did do a he did Tech Jacket with Robert Kirkman. He co-created Tech Jacket. So, all right, I'm going to take off, folks. Thank you so much for the suggestions, the questions, and just bearing with me as I doodled away tonight. That's what I came up with for Drooling. I had a lot of fun. All right, take care, everyone. Keep reading comics. See you tomorrow.